What's up, everybody, and welcome to The Flex. It's your boy Craig here for another week of fantasy football. And guess what, baby? The time is now upon us. Football starts Thursday. Tomorrow, it's ready to go. Cowboys, Bears, and what a way to start off the season. And for fantasy, we got a lot of great games. Everybody's playing this week. And, if you've done your draft, you have your players and you got your lineup set and ready to go, right? One of the things I like to tell people, and I noticed this for myself the other night, is don't get caught up in your fantasy football grade. Sometimes I'll brag about the grade I got because I happened to get a good grade. But I've drafted teams that I wish I had, and I've gotten C's and B's. And it's because, if you jump down further than, if you jump down more than 5 picks, more than 5 slots, it kind of goes against your grade. If you pick teams that have a player that's going up against a tough schedule, and if the teams you're playing, the schedule is tougher for you, that also brings down your grade. For instance, in my last draft, let me see if I can actually pull that up for you. I got the number 3 overall pick. I draft Alvin Kamara in the first round. Let me see if I could pull this bad boy up. It's in the league I call Elite. I got Antonio Brown, so I named my team Ice Ice AB. I like that name. Heard it on Good Morning Football. Decided I would go with it. But, first round, I got Alvin Kamara. Boom, it comes back around to me. I grabbed Todd Gurley. And when it comes back again, I went and grabbed AB. And then I think when it came back again, I had to go with Mark Ingram. I really love bolstering up that running game because I think that there's a lot of valuable wide receivers as you get deeper, but that's not the case when it comes to running backs. But I got a C+ in this particular draft, and I have no idea why my grade would be so low. I got a lot of great players on my team. My internet is just really crap in here. But I got so many dope players on my team. My running back staff was just absolutely stacked with talent. I know that my second wide receiver wasn't the best second wide receiver, but I also did get Melvin Gordon just in case he does end up playing. Even if Melvin Gordon plays, even if he misses 5 to 10 weeks, once he comes back, he's Melvin Gordon. And if your team is doing well and you make it into the playoffs, Melvin Gordon is going to get you the championship. I actually ended up, matter of fact, I do like my wide receiver. I did go with T.Y. Hilton. I was kind of off on Colts players, but then I've been hearing a lot of good things about Jacoby Brissett. People are thinking he's going to be a lot better than other people expect. And I was wrong. I went Alvin Kamara and then Joe Mixon, Antonio Brown, Mark Ingram, T.Y. Hilton, Jared Cook, and then I believe I went with Drew Brees. But I got Corey Davis, Calvin Ridley, Kenny Stills, Melvin Gordon, I said Albert Wilson, and Mark Andrews. I got Fairbairn and Los Angeles Rams as my defense. My team is stacked, and I drafted Kirk Cousins. My team was stacked, but I got a C+. When you send your team out and it's Drew Brees, Antonio Brown, T.Y. Hilton, Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, Jared Cook, Ingram, Fairbairn, and the Chargers defense. And actually, someone in my league dropped Jaguars defense, so I scooped them up. So now I got Jaguars and I got the Chargers defense. So I'm looking real good there. If you're facing me, I don't care what you say. You're nervous. You're worried that you might lose. And my projections for the first week are 165 points. So I'm looking really good. So don't get caught up in the grading. Do your best to draft the best team you can. With that being said, now your draft is done. You're ready to play, but you're looking at your bench and you feel like maybe you've made some iffy decisions in some of the players you've grabbed. Maybe you've grabbed Royce Freeman and realized that that was just a terrible decision. Maybe you've drafted, I don't know, some wide receiver, Keelan Cole or whatever. I have some guys that I believe will be on your waiver wire, and that if you're lacking in tight end, or if you're not happy with your backup quarterback, or you're worried, you're trying to find out some sleeper running backs, got the picks right here for you, baby. And we're going to start off with the quarterbacks. And number one on the list is actually a big surprise to me, and I've been noticing him not getting drafted in almost every league I play in, and that's Matthew Stafford. Yeah, he lost Golden Tate, but he's got Danny Amendola. He still has Kenny Golladay, and they did get TJ Hawkinson, and they have Jesse James. So, I mean, the run game is looking pretty good. They did get rid of Theo Riddick, but they brought on CJ Anderson. This team still has some flashes of light. So, Matthew Stafford, definitely a quality guy. And if you don't like your backup quarterback, or if you didn't draft one and you're thinking of someone you want to go for, Matthew Stafford is number one quarterback on the waiver wire. And then after that, it does get shaky after that. Mariota, sometimes Kirk Cousins is still on the list. That's probably doubtful, but sometimes he is. But Marcus Mariota, he has a lot of people to pass the ball to, and I think people mistake. Delaney Walker is back, and as far as it looks, he's 100%. Corey Davis now has a full season underneath his belt. I think he's going to make waves this year. I think this is his third year. I expect him to make waves. They just got that kid, A.J. Brown, the rookie. If he's ready to go, he's also another threat. And, they got a lot of guys on that team. Dion Lewis can catch passes out of the backfield. And Derrick Henry's going to hopefully get that the run game going to open up for the pass game. So Marcus Mariota also put on weight to make himself more durable. So I do like him. I wouldn't draft him necessarily, but if you didn't draft a backup and you need one, Marcus Mariota could come through in a pinch. One guy I think people forget, he's not a great quarterback, but he puts up huge fantasy numbers when he's on. And when is he on? Nobody knows. But last year, he started the season on fire, hot. One of the best quarterbacks, and that's Ryan Fitzpatrick, a.k.a. Fitzmagic, baby. And I love this dude. Fitzpatrick is one, I don't want to say he's underrated, but he's an underrated backup. And he's starting in Miami. Albert Wilson is like the poor man's Tyreek Hill. And Devontae Parker should be healthy this year. So I think they got a good target there. They got Gesicki, the second-year tight end. Hopefully, he's going to build on last season. He didn't do too much, but he was a high prospect last year. And usually, tight ends take about, first, second. They don't usually do well in their first year. Second year, they usually step up. So we're hoping to get that. Kenyon Drake and Balaj in the backfield. We're hoping to see good things from this team. And the thing about Fitzpatrick is he's got nothing to lose and everything to gain. He plays with nothing but heart. He's going to throw a lot of interceptions, but the man is a touchdown throwing machine. He loves to air it out. And I think they did lose Kenny Stills, which is a real bad hit for that team, but I think they got some pieces to make up for that loss. So if you're in desperation mode, or if you're that type of person who wants to take a gamble on a quarterback, get week one, because, you don't really, maybe you got Jared Goff and you don't really know how he's going to do this week, throw in Fitzmagic and roll the dice. And I said, his name is Fitzmagic for a reason. And sometimes he does, bring on some magical moments. But that's all I can say about that. Next on the list is Nick Foles. And Nick Foles is absolutely not being drafted. But let's remember, he has D.D. Westbrook. He does have Keelan Cole. He has DJ Chark. He's got some weapons. Terrell Pryor's on the injured reserve right now, and I don't know if I can even believe in that guy anymore. But Nick Foles, this is his moment to shine. Week 1, he's got to come out strong. He's got to show the fans, the owners, the coaches what he's come to do. He's got to prove that he's come to play, and he's got to keep that job. I mean, he got paid, but just because you get paid doesn't mean you get to stay. So let's see what happens with that. But I think he could be a valuable backup on an offense that has a really good run game as well. And then finally, he might be there, he might not be there, but Lamar Jackson. I like Lamar Jackson because it's like having a running back on your on your lineup that can throw the ball. I mean, the man is going to be turning on the wheels and getting downfield constantly, and he's most likely going to be Q-back sneaking for touchdowns all day long. So I don't know, maybe you drafted Jimmy Garoppolo as your number 1 quarterback and you need a backup. Lamar Jackson is going to be better than that guy. So see what happens with that. On to the running backs. There's some guys in the running back position that, especially if you're in a 12-team league or above, some guys that got overlooked. And number 1 to me on that list is Dion Lewis. Last year, Dion Lewis did very well in fantasy. And this year, he's getting 0 love. Like, don't forget, especially, like, I talk about PPR. Everything I say revolves strongly around PPR. And Dion Lewis catches passes out of the backfield. He has excellent hands, and he is extremely elusive. He's not breaking tackles, like Derrick Henry, but he's avoiding being taken down. So this guy is valuable. And if you have Royce Freeman on your bench, time to drop him and pick up Dion Lewis. If you have Balaj on your team, time to drop him and pick up Dion Lewis. If you've picked up Breda, time to drop him, pick up Dion Lewis. The list goes on for days. To be honest with you, I'd put Dion Lewis over James White this season. There's just so many guys that I think people have drafted, backup guys, that you should be dropping to pick up Dion Lewis. I don't really like this guy a ton, but just because of his starting running back, I just feel like he's going to get his touches, is Ito Smith. Ito Smith is on the Atlanta Falcons behind Devontae Freeman. And Devontae Freeman has not finished a season in 2 years. Last year, he didn't even play a single regular season snap. So Ito Smith is looking real good to take that job over. And he's on a lot of waiver wires right now. So if you want someone to stash away in hopes that the starter goes down, you can't do any better than Ito Smith. And then same exact thing, C.J. Anderson, man. Like, I don't know how many people weren't paying attention to the end of the season last year when the Rams signed C.J. Anderson, and then Todd Gurley couldn't play no more. C.J. Anderson was the best running back in the NFL. Now, I will give him this. He had the freshest legs in the NFL, so therefore that speaks, volumes to what he was able to do. But just because you got fresh legs don't mean you can run the ball. He ran the ball. He was burying his helmet down people's throats and putting up 200 yards in a single game. I think he scored 2 touchdowns in that same game. C.J. Anderson is not done playing football, and he is not done playing good football. So not only do I think he might get his regular touches in Detroit on top of what Kerryon Johnson gets, but if Kerryon Johnson gets hurt, C.J. Anderson is the handcuff that you want. And once he gets in there, I think he's going to rip it. So don't sleep on my boy. I think he's going to do really well for you. On the other end of that, for the Buffalo Bills, I got T.J. Yeldon. The Bills have cut ties and released LaShawn McCoy, and LaShawn McCoy is now with Kansas City Chiefs. And Kansas City Chiefs are saying that both LaShawn McCoy and Damian Williams are the starters. They're both number ones. I believe Damian Williams might lose his job. I don't think Damian Williams is as good as people think he is. But T.J. Yeldon is the backup to the rookie Singletary. Now, Singletary looked good in preseason, but what is he going to do during the regular season when he's up against true competition? We don't know yet. We don't know what he's capable of, but who do we know what they're capable of is TJ Yeldon. When Leonard Fournette went down last season, TJ Yeldon became a fantasy must-own. He got picked up in every league, and he was putting up double-digit points every week. So my opinion is, if you've got a bench slot that has a whack player in it, like once again, Royce Freeman. I don't know why anybody drafted Royce Freeman. Ronald Jones, Peyton Barber. There's so many guys that people have drafted. TJ Yeldon actually has fantasy value. He might even get his touches because he can catch passes out of the backfield. Like, this guy has immediate fantasy value. I'm not saying that you should put him in your starting lineup. What I'm saying is he should be on your bench and be held there because he might have value once it comes time to fill a flex position for a bye week, or if Singletary goes down. So look out for that. And then from the Chargers, I would say pick up Justin Jackson, especially if you're in a 12-plus team league. Justin Jackson is the backup to Eckler. So if Melvin Gordon comes in, Eckler and Jackson become irrelevant in fantasy. But if Melvin Gordon does not return, Austin Eckler is up first. And it's his job to lose, and he could very well lose that job. He was impressive when Melvin Gordon first went out, but as the season progressed, he wasn't very impressive. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you really remember, Austin Eckler was not what people are making him out to be, which is why he's generally getting drafted like around the 10th round in fantasy. If he's replacing one of the top 6 running backs in the NFL on one of the top teams in the NFL, I would think that he'd be drafted in the 4th, 5th round, right? No. He's getting drafted late because nobody trusts this guy to do exactly what he needs to do and to fill that void that Melvin Gordon's going to fill. And I don't think Jackson's going to fill it either. But Austin Eckler's going to get his opportunity first. When Justin Jackson does, maybe he surprises us. And maybe, he shows why he was drafted by the Chargers in the first place. I don't know, but it's worth stashing him away. Honorable mention in the running back position, because I think there's some more guys that people slept on, is Chris Thompson. If Chris Thompson's healthy, he's not a premier running back. He's the 3rd back in Washington, but he catches passes out of the backfield better than most running backs in the NFL. 1. 2, they're going to need him desperately to catch passes out of the backfield because they have no wide receivers in Washington. Who is their number 1 guy? Tell me. Somebody, please tell me who the number 1 wide receiver on the Washington Redskins is. They just released Josh Doctson, who was their number 1 guy. So who's next? Who steps into that position? Paul Richardson? What? Get out of here. This team is in trouble. When Jordan Reed is your best pass catcher, that's a problem. Jordan Reed can't finish a season. So what's going to happen there? Lots of mistakes are going to happen, and Chris Thompson is going to be the security blanket for whoever the starting QB is on that team. And following that up with Giovanni Bernard. Giovanni Bernard just got extended for 2 years. You don't extend a guy for 2 years if you're not going to utilize him. Now, Joe Mixon is a beast, even behind an abysmal offensive line, and they are lacking in wide receivers. You have Chris Core and you have Tyler Boyd, but A.J. Green might not be back till week 5. So, we're looking at some problems here, and Giovanni Bernard is an excellent pass catcher, so he is definitely worth a stash away. In the wide receiver position, wide receivers do get picked pretty clean, but there's always some flashes of talent. And as the season progresses, I think we're going to see some guys just come out of the woodwork with talent and fantasy value. It happened 2 years ago with Juju Smith. It happens every year. Every year there's that at least one or two wide receivers that you didn't see coming, and they put up huge fantasy points for you. And you get to start them every week. And on that list is some guys who have been there before and some guys who I think could show up for you for the first time. First on my list is Devin Funchess. Once again, a guy who I was very much out of the mix for, but now that I've been hearing some really good things about Jacoby Brissett, that he has developed quite nicely and he is a very strong leader, I am interested to see what's going to happen. And I think that if you are hurting in the wide receiver position, Devin Funchess could fill that void for you. Next on the list, just because of what I seen happen with him in week 4, is Demaryius Thomas. Unless you were crazy and you drafted him for some stupid reason, he's on the waiver wire. And he scored 2 touchdowns. He caught 7 passes. He had an excellent week 4 game. Now, yes, it was against, third and fourth stringers, but he still got the job done. He still has gas in the tank, and I think that he's worth a stash away at this point. Marquise Valdes-Scantling for the Green Bay Packers. He is, it could be argued between him and Allison who's number 1 and who's number 2. But I think Valdes-Scantling is going to be the number 2 guy there, and he's not being drafted in most leagues. I think he's worth a stash away. I think he can be a breakout candidate this year. One of the most veteran guys on this list is Cole Beasley. Let's think about this. Cole Beasley goes to an offense that was absolutely terrible last year. But they still have Robert Foster returning, who's their number 1 wide receiver. After that, it's Cole Beasley and John Brown. Now, yes, John Brown is a deep threat, but Cole Beasley is like a poor man's Julian Edelman. He's a clutch go-getter. And when Josh Allen is in trouble, he's going to look for Cole Beasley in the slot. And I think Cole Beasley is going to be more about volume catches than touchdowns and yards. So in PPR, I think Cole Beasley is worth a stash away and worth taking a risk on a flex position later on in the season. But I've always liked Cole Beasley. And I think I've said this on the show before, but Cole Beasley is a rapper. He's a rapper. And I'm not going to say he's got bars, but if you heard his freestyle on, I think, Hot 97 with, Big Boy, he ate it. And I'm not going to lie, Cole Beasley got an album, mixtape, so to speak, and I listened to it. I downloaded it off of YouTube, one track at a time, and I'm not going to say that I would bump it regularly or more than once, but I did listen to it once through, and for it being Cole Beasley, I was impressed. I was impressed by his lyrical ability. He's not like, anything to brag about. He's not someone that you're going to be like bringing to the party, blaze up and be like, yo, listen to Cole Beasley, but you might be like, hey, want to hear a Cole Beasley track? I don't know. Anyway, off topic. And then the last 2 guys on my list, I had to put on there. One of them might be drafted or picked up off the waiver wire already. The other guy is most likely on the waiver wire. First on the list is Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills was probably on the waiver wire because he was on Miami. But now that he's on Houston, I think his stock skyrocketed. He is a high prospect right now. I think after he traded to Houston, if you drafted after that, his draft, he was normally getting drafted in the last 3 or 4 rounds. I bet you that even shot up a round or 2. And then Devontae Parker being the number 1 and second best wide receiver. I like Albert Wilson better on the Miami Dolphins. I think his stock goes up with Kenny Stills being gone, and I think he's worth a stash away just to see if maybe he can get it together. Finally, in tight ends, I would say, in all honesty, if you didn't do a good job drafting tight ends, if you don't have 2 guys on your team, you're probably, up the creek, no paddle, with a leak in the boat. But there are some guys that, can possibly fill the void on a bye week if you're hurting and you're not worried about getting into double digits, but you just want to get on the board, I'm going to start this list off with Cameron Brate. Now, I say Cameron Brate because, yeah, we know O.J. Howard is the number one tight end, but guess who's the starting quarterback again? That's Jameis Winston, baby. And Jameis Winston loves himself some Cameron Brate. It was Ryan Fitzpatrick who loved himself some O.J. Howard, but Cameron Brate, Jameis Winston, they've got a connection. He's got that with Mike Evans, and he's got that with Cameron Brate. So I like Cameron Brate's chances to get you some points. I don't think he's going to break double digits often at all, but it could happen. Goddard from Philly. If you're willing, Jordan Reed, if you're stashing him away just to help the bye week, maybe he's healthy during the bye week. Noah Fant, his rookie year, nobody knows what to expect from him. You could gamble on a bye week and throw him in and see what happens. I talked about Gesicki earlier. It's his second year. Maybe he can turn it around. Ryan Fitzpatrick likes to throw the ball. If he can fight for it, he has a chance. And Jesse James moves on to Detroit, giving him a whole new look. And maybe as the veteran tight end, he'll start the season off strong. So those are my waiver wire sleepers for the week. Next week and the weeks after that, I'll be giving you all my starts and sits, and trying to give you some updates on injuries and who's where and what's what. So make sure you're paying attention because football is here. It's on like Donkey Kong, baby, and it's ready to go. I'm excited. I can't wait to watch a real game. I know you know how I feel. It's exciting times, and may the odds be ever in your favor. Good luck. Have a good night.